Beneath the crystal chandeliers of Le Bernardin, one of Beverly Hills' most luxurious restaurants, Ozzy Osbourne quietly cut into his steak, and nobody had noticed who he was, just the way he liked it. Instead of his black leather jacket, he wore a simple navy sweater, faded jeans, and his signature oversized sunglasses. The 70-year-old rock legend didn't look like a world-famous star. He looked like a retired English working man. The restaurant was packed. Beverly Hills elite had gathered for their evening meals. Glittering dresses, fake laughs, golden watches. When Ozzy lifted his head, two figures entering through the glass door caught his attention. A mother, and beside her, a little girl no older than 6. The mother's jacket was patched, and the girl's shoes were at least 2 sizes too big. The small child clutched her mother's hand tightly, staring in wonder at the restaurant's brightness. A young, arrogant waiter stopped them at the door. With a slight sneer on his lips, he asked, "Do you have a reservation?" As if he already knew the answer. The mother, a woman in her 30s named Maria, lowered her head and replied, "No, sir, could I ask about leftover food?" The waiter frowned, turning back to glance at the restaurant manager. The manager, a middle-aged man in a sharp suit, slowly approached and said in a cold voice, "I'm afraid we don't have a policy for that." Maria's eyes filled with tears, but she bit her lip to keep from crying in front of her little girl. The small girl, named Lily, looked up at her mother's face and whispered, "Mama, don't be sad. I'm not really that hungry." But the rumble from her tiny stomach said something different. Ozzy heard everything, every word, the waiter's disgust, the manager's coldness, little Lily's attempt to comfort her mother. He slowly set his knife down on the table and removed his sunglasses. But nobody yet knew what Ozzy Osbourne was about to do. Because at that moment, inside that luxury restaurant, no one recognized him. They just saw an old, ordinary man. Ozzy slowly stood up. As Maria and Lily were about to turn away, Ozzy's Birmingham-accented voice rose like a bell cutting through the restaurant's elegant silence. "Excuse me, sir," he said to the waiter. "I think there's been a mistake." The waiter turned, looking down at the old man with a condescending expression. "Yes, sir?" Ozzy smiled, but his smile wasn't warm. It was something sad. "This lady and young miss are having dinner with me. Show them to my table, please." Silence. For a few seconds, nothing happened in the restaurant. The waiter opened his mouth, then closed it and looked at the manager. The manager, this time more carefully, studied Ozzy up close. His face seemed familiar, but he couldn't quite place it. Maria stood frozen. Ozzy extended his hand, gently touching Maria's arm, and whispered, "Please, Mom, would you join me? Sharon, my wife, she's always having a go at me for eating alone. You'd actually be doing me a favor." His voice was so sincere that Maria's heart began beating even faster. Little Lily, her eyes wide, looked at the old man and whispered, "Really?" Ozzy knelt down to Lily's eye level and answered with that famous crooked smile of his, "Really, little miss. Besides, I'm not all that hungry either, but I've got to finish my plate, or if my wife finds out, all hell will break loose." Lily giggled. It was the first time in her life an adult had spoken to her so genuinely. The waiter still hesitated, but when the manager looked at Ozzy's face once more, his color suddenly drained. His eyes widened, his mouth went dry, and he stammered, Are you Mr. Osbourne?" Ozzy stood up, put his hand in his pocket, and shrugged. "Well, that's what it says on my ID." The manager was sweating now. At one of Beverly Hills' most famous restaurants, he'd been caught arguing with a hungry woman and child at the door while the biggest name in rock history watched. Ozzy walked to his table, bringing Maria and Lily along with him. Whispers started around the restaurant. Phones came out, but Ozzy didn't care. They sat down, and as Ozzy took the menu the waiter brought over, he turned to Maria. "Now, Mom, you're going to do me a favor. You're going to order anything you'd like from here. I'm an old man. I haven't got much of a palate left these days, but I'd love to know what a young girl like your Lily would like to eat." Maria was sobbing now, her hands covering her face. Words were stuck in her throat. She couldn't speak. Lily touched her mother's hand and whispered, "Mama, Please don't cry." Ozzy handed Maria a napkin and said softly, "Mom, there's nothing to be ashamed of. We've all been through hard times. I grew up in Birmingham, in a poor family. My dad worked in a steel factory. My mum cleaned houses for the rich." Maria lifted her head, looked at Ozzy with reddened eyes, and asked in a broken voice, "Why? Why are you helping us?" Ozzy smiled, but this time his smile was sad, coming from somewhere deep. "Because, Mom, I've been singing on stages for years. Millions of people have watched me, but I never forgot where I came from, and I heard your little Lily's brave little lie. 'Mama, I'm not really that hungry,' she said. God, that took me back years. I told my mum the same lie when I was a kid." The waiter approached, this time far more respectful, almost trembling. "May I take your order?" Ozzy handed the menu to Lily. "Go on, little miss. Tell me what you'd like." "They've got cake, by the way. It's lovely." Lily's eyes lit up, but then she looked at her mother as if waiting for approval. Maria nodded, wiping away her tears. Lily asked hesitantly, "Could I have a burger?" Ozzy burst out laughing, that famous laugh of his. "A burger? Bloody hell, finally someone with the same taste as me. Waiter, 2 burgers, please. And chips. Lots of them. And a chocolate milkshake. For Lily, of course. I can't handle that much youth anymore." But nobody yet knew that what Ozzy Osbourne was going to do that night was far more than this. Because as they sat at the table, Ozzy turned to Maria and asked, "Ma'am, if I may ask, how did you end up in this situation?" And Maria, perhaps for the first time in her life, because someone was truly listening, told him everything. Maria's story began to pour out quietly beneath the crystal chandeliers of that luxury restaurant. Her voice trembled, but every word was real, heavy with pain. 3 years ago she'd lost her husband, and Maria was left alone. Little Lily was only 3 years old then. Maria started working cleaning jobs, 3 different houses a day, from 6 in the morning until 10 at night. Lily would stay with an elderly neighbor woman. But last month, that elderly woman had died too, and Maria couldn't afford childcare. She'd started bringing Lily with her to work. The little girl would play quietly in the corner with her doll, while Maria cleaned the homes of the wealthy. Then, one day, the owner of one of the houses she cleaned accused Maria of breaking an expensive vase. In reality, it was the family's dog that broke it, but no one listened to Maria. They docked her pay, and that month she couldn't afford rent. They were evicted. For the past 2 weeks, they'd been sleeping in the back seat of a car. Maria's voice broke. "Mr. Osbourne, I'm not a mother worthy of my daughter. I can't even give her a home." Lily gripped her mother's hand tightly and whispered through tears, "No, Mama, you're the best. You always love me." Ozzy's eyes filled with tears. He placed his hand on Maria's, and his voice grew thick. "Mom, you're a hero. Believe me, I've seen a lot in my life. I've made millions on stage, but I've never had the courage you have. You're fighting for your daughter. That's the most valuable thing in this world." Just then, the waiter brought their orders. 2 big burgers, chips, salad, and a huge chocolate milkshake for Lily. The little girl's eyes sparkled, but first she looked at her mother. Maria nodded, smiling through her tears. When Lily took her first bite, the happiness on her face was so genuine that even a few wealthy women sitting in the restaurant couldn't hold back their tears. As Ozzy slowly ate his burger, he thought of Sharon. What would his wife say if she saw this scene? Probably, "Ozzy, you're the softest-hearted lunatic in the world." They ate quietly for a while. Ozzy made jokes every now and then. "You know, I don't know how I've lived this long." Sharon says, "It's a miracle." And I say, "No, love, it's stubbornness. I'm stubborn, see? I even refuse to die." Lily giggled, her mouth covered in chocolate sauce. "You're funny." Ozzy raised his eyebrows. "Funny? Bloody hell, write that down. Someone finally thinks I'm funny. Most people just think I'm weird." When the meal was finished, Ozzy called the waiter over and said something quietly. The waiter nodded and hurried away. Ozzy turned back to the table and looked at Maria. "Now, Mom, we need to have a serious conversation." Maria's face tensed. She was scared. Maybe this old man expected repayment. But Ozzy's next words changed everything. I have a small foundation in Los Angeles. Sharon and I have been working with families in difficult situations for years. Quietly, without media attention. Now I have a proposal for you. Maria held her breath. Ozzy continued. We're going to rent a flat for you for 3 months, rent paid. We're also going to find you a job outside of cleaning work, if you'd like. Perhaps a teacher's assistant at a school or support staff at a care home. A job with a salary and insurance. And we'll arrange a nursery for little Lily as well. Maria's mouth fell open. No words would come. Lily looked at her mother's face. She couldn't fully understand what was happening, but she could see her mother was happy. Ozzy smiled. But I have one condition. Maria answered immediately. I'll do anything, anything. Ozzy continued with a serious expression. You must always tell Lily that her mother is a hero. Because, Mum, you truly are, and I hate seeing heroes fight alone. Maria collapsed at the table, buried her head in her arms, and sobbed. Lily hugged her mother, gently stroking her hair with her small hands. Mama, please don't cry any more. Everyone in the restaurant was watching this scene. Some were in tears, some were filming on their phones, and some bowed their heads in shame. In this place where the wealthy ate luxury meals, a real miracle was unfolding. Ozzy stood up from the table, pulled out his wallet, and whispered to the waiter as he handed over his credit card. Pay the bill and prepare a package of food to go. For tomorrow. Plenty of it. The waiter bowed his head. Of course, Mr. Osbourne. And thank you. I hope you'll forgive me. I didn't recognize you at first. Ozzy shrugged. No worries, mate. Actually, it worked out. Otherwise, I might not have had the chance to meet this lady. The manager also approached, wringing his hands. Mr. Osbourne, your meal tonight is on us. Please accept. It's an honor. Ozzy gave him a hard look. No, sir. I'll pay, but I'll tell you something. If a hungry mother and child come to your door again, and you turn them away, I'll find out. And then I'll come here, sit at this very table, and tell all of social media what kind of place this is. Understood? The manager's face went ashen. Understood, Mr. Osbourne. I'm very sorry. Ozzy nodded and turned to Maria. Mom, now we need to go somewhere. Please, trust me. Maria was still in shock, but she nodded. Lily was bouncing with happiness. Where are we going? Ozzy smiled. It's a surprise, little miss. But trust me, you're going to love it. When they stepped outside, Ozzy's driver was waiting with the car. A black Mercedes, shiny and luxurious. Maria hesitated. Mr. Osbourne, we don't want to make the car dirty. Ozzy laughed. Ma'am, this car is just a pile of metal. You and Lily are far more valuable. Come on, get in. During the drive, Ozzy called Sharon. Maria listened as he spoke to his wife on the phone. Sharon, love, I need to tell you something. I met a very special family today. Yes, I did it again. No, the police weren't called this time. They just needed a bit of help. Yes, I know. I love you too. See you soon. After he hung up, Ozzy turned and smiled. Sharon says you're a very lucky family, because I usually cock these things up. Last year I tried to help a homeless bloke, and he didn't recognize me and shouted, Bugger off, old man. Sharon still takes the piss out of me for that. The car finally stopped in front of a small but clean apartment building. Ozzy got out, and Maria and Lily followed. This is your new home, Ozzy said, handing the keys to Maria. Maria couldn't believe it. But how is this possible? This fast? Ozzy winked. Ma'am, money speeds some things up, but to be honest, the real magic is Sharon. That woman can move mountains with one phone call. When they went up to the flat, a small but warm apartment was waiting for them. 2 bedrooms, a living room, a kitchen, and a bathroom. Furnished and clean. Lily let out a squeal and ran to the bedroom. Mama! I have my own bed. Maria dropped to her knees and covered her face with her hands. Ozzy knelt beside her, rubbing her back. Come on, ma'am. Enough tears now. From now on, it should only be smiles. Maria lifted her head, looked at Ozzy, and asked with a trembling voice, Why? Why are you doing this for a stranger? Ozzy took a deep breath, his eyes drifting into the distance. Because, ma'am, I've always given people entertainment. But real happiness is being able to touch someone's life. I was a poor kid from Birmingham. If a few good people hadn't given me a chance, I wouldn't be here now. Now it's my turn. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it for myself. Because this is what makes me human. Maria stood up and hugged Ozzy. The old rock star was a bit surprised, but then he smiled and hugged her back. All right, or Sharon will get jealous. Lily came running and hugged them both. Thank you, old man. Ozzy burst out laughing. Old man? Bloody hell, that's true, actually. I really am an old man. Before Ozzy left, he gave Maria a business card. This is my foundation's number. Call tomorrow. They'll arrange a job interview for you. And remember, you can always come back here. Now I've got to go because Sharon's waiting for me. As he stepped out the door, he turned and looked back one last time. Ma'am, stay strong. And Lily, little miss, finish school well, all right? Lily answered with a smile. I promise. That night, Maria and Lily slept in a real bed for the first time in months. Lily dreamed of chocolate milkshakes and that old man's smile. Maria knelt down and prayed silently, thanking God for sending her an angel. 6 months later, Maria was invited to attend a meeting organized by Ozzy's foundation. In a small office, she gathered with other families who had been through hardships. Ozzy was there too, quietly sipping tea in the corner. When Maria saw him, she approached. Mr. Osbourne, she said, I want to show you something. She handed him a small piece of paper. Lily's report card. All A's. Ozzy took off his glasses, looked at the paper, and his eyes filled with tears. Bloody hell, this girl's a genius. When I was in school, I didn't even know there was a letter called A. Lily smiled shyly. I told my teacher I'm going to be a doctor and help people. Just like you did. Ozzy knelt down, looked into Lily's eyes and whispered, Then when I get old, you'll take care of me, yeah? Because these knees aren't what they used to be. Lily nodded seriously. I promise. Before Ozzy got into his car, he turned one last time. Maria and Lily were waving. Ozzy smiled and thought to himself, Sharon was right. Some things are worth more than a Grammy. And that night, beneath the lights of Los Angeles, 2 lives had been changed forever. Because the real miracle wasn't what happened in that restaurant. It was Maria getting back up the next day, taking Lily to school, going to work, and carrying on with life. Ozzy had only opened a door. The rest, Maria walked through on her own strength. And maybe that's how life always is. Some people just show you the way. The walking is up to you.